Good afternoon. Good evening if you're in Europe. Good afternoon if you're in the United States or North America, and I think it's good morning in Australia. Welcome to Game 1 of the Final Fantasy I Total Chaos 3 tournament between Crrool and Kibetha. This is a best of 3 grand finals. We've been doing double elimination up to this point, but for the finals we've changed it to give you guys more of an opportunity to commentary curse, listen to us commentary curse, see a lot of RNG, and perhaps get a Warmech. So,
and we will be cursing them.
I'm joined today by Shin, Breaker7, and they've already started, so we're just going to go ahead and get right into this one.
All right, so the first thing we're doing is we're seeing the major glitch that kind of defines this whole route of the game, which is the equipment glitch. Basically, every weapon, armor, every equipable item in the game has basically a number associated with it in an item table, and that is a weapon or any other piece of equipment. There's 2 different categories, and by changing from one character slot to another, one character's weapon slot to another character's armor slot, or vice versa, you can bring up the item IDs for the item you actually own, which lets you swap items for others. At the very beginning, we bought a hammer, and we transformed that into 5 sets of knight's armors, 4 to wear and 1 to sell.
So right off the bat, looks like they're more or less tied right off the bat. I mean, I didn't get a good chance to see what their menus were doing, actually, but they're already out of Cornelia. They're on their way over to the Chaos Shrine to confront Garland and rescue the Princess Sarah here. In this early section, they're just going to be running away from all the enemies they run into, as we don't need to kill them for anything. The experience they give is pretty pathetic at this level, and we just don't need it. And we're more than capable of running away from all the enemies here. They're hoping to probably avoid wolves, as they could be a little bit more problematic to run from in this early running of the game. But
and as looks like Crrool's had a little better luck. Oh, he caught an encounter there, so we'll see who can run better here. So Crrool is first to enter the Chaos Shrine, and he is going to go over the left side, and we're going to pick ourselves up a leather cap. Why are you picking up that leather cap?
Why the leather cap? Well, there's a bit of a programming oversight that allows for the equipment glitch to be possible in this version, and it just so happens that the leather cap corresponds to the same item ID number with the Judgment Staff item, which is an item from the bonus content that was added in the GBA and PSP versions. So they can basically just pick up that cap, and instead of actually equipping it, they can utilize the glitch to turn it into copies of a Judgment Staff and put them on all their characters, and that is regardless of whether or not the character can naturally equip it. So it has more attack power than any of the weapons that are normally available to us at this point. Additionally, if you use it in combat, it has a nice bonus effect that we'll be seeing in the next town. Won't spoil it yet.
It's a pretty good effect. And even though stabs are the weakest category weapon, it is so high level an item that it is stronger than any other weapon we can get, even using the glitch until the 3rd town, I believe. So, but it's strong. It's going to be our weapon actually all the way up until we glitch a ludicrous weapon later.
So as you can guys see, Crrool was the first one into the shrine, but Kib was actually the first one to get into and complete the fight here. And you're likely to see that be very common throughout this run. The RNG of running into many encounters, as well as the results of combat, because I mean, they might have trouble running, can significantly swing things in the early going. But it will be hard for either of these guys to build a serious lead early on, as there's plenty of opportunities over the course of this run to try to catch up and to flip the lead around. So there's a significant RNG factor to this run. I mean, execution matters, but there is definitely a not insignificant impact from the RNG.
Yeah, a great example is like we do everything we can to save time, everything out of control. Minor thing we did in that last little cutscene, instead of walking out of the castle immediately, we walked up to Princess Sarah and talked to her, because that saved us 2 steps in a text box versus if we try to walk out first. So, you know, that saved us about a second or two, but then we can have a bad encounter. It can cost us minutes. It's, so we shave off every second we can and let kind of Final Fantasy 1 decide the rest.
So Kib looks like she got an encounter before the bridge. Yeah, that's a little unfortunate here. If you were able to reach the bridge, it resets the threat level that builds as you take each step on the overworld, and stepping on it is a free reset of it down to the lowest level. So every tile they step on builds their threat level to a certain point, and it caps out after a certain number of steps. Which tile they step on or which tile type they step on influences how quickly the rate of encounters can rise. So they're going to be trying to avoid forest tiles as much as possible, but this walk over to Pravoka is full of a huge forest here, and there's really no way around this. You just kind of have to power your way through it, try to get out of it. Here we see Kib having a little trouble with wolves, which can be problematic in the early running. So we don't have any... I mean, the primary goal of this run, with the way these racers have set up their routes on this one, is that they want to glitch and obtain powerful gear, which boosts the agility of their characters, so that they can act earlier in combat and run easier from enemies as well. So if they need to kill something, they can act earlier in the turn order. If they need to run, they can run as quickly as possible. We don't have any of that this early in the run, and we're not going to get it for a good 15-20 minutes.
So Crrool here is using the Judgment Staves. Let's see what happens. Is that the most powerful spell in the game that we're seeing right now?
Sure looks like it. Very pretty spell, though.
Yeah.
So it basically, it casts Flare, which is, yes, equivalent to the level 8 black magic spell. So for the price of picking up a leather cap, we have instant access to a level 8 spell without having to go through, you know, hours of grinding or traversing any dungeons or anything like that.
And it uses no MP, and yeah, it's broken, is what it is.
It uses no MP, doesn't consume the staff either, so it's pretty convenient.
But why don't use it all the time?
Because it takes a long time to cast, so it's not necessarily the fastest way to kill everything in the run. So Crrool, it's by far the easiest way to deal with those 9 pirates, because otherwise I got to spend 3 rounds of combat issuing melee attack orders and dealing with that. So Kib did get the leather shield drop from the pirates. In this version of the game, enemies can actually drop items, which is not a common thing you see in the NES or the PlayStation version. And leather shield can be used for a glitching that she'll be using later on. Otherwise, she would have ducked into the armor shop to go pick that up in Pravoka. She didn't have to do that. So they're out of the town now. They're sailing over to Alfheim, and they're trying to avoid getting into too many sea encounters, as they can also be somewhat difficult and problematic to run from in the early going, especially Sahagin encounters. Crrool has already undocked here near Alfheim, and he's continued past it. Kib has just docked here and is making her way over. So Crrool is once again taking over the lead. So you've already seen 2 lead changes in the early going here in the first 10 minutes of this. And this is about an hour-and-a-half long run in the best case. There's going to be a lot of changing hands right in the early going.
So it's going to be interesting to watch. These 2 runners do run slightly different routes. Crrool still focuses more on the classic Barbarian Sword route, whereas Kib does Lust Dagger White Mage route, use a lot more item magic, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Now we saw Kib duck into Alfheim, and she actually picked up some gold needles, which is a great safety in case of petrification later on. Crrool did not do that yet, but he will probably do that in one of his later trips to Alfheim.
Yeah. There are 3 points where we have the option to do that. Kib did it when she did, because if you do, anytime you walk into and out of the town, it resets that threat counter we were talking about earlier. So she did that to reset her threat counter on her way to the Marsh Cavern here. My brain ain't working. Speaking of the Marsh Cavern, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing early in the game here. So, plot-wise, we're trying to get out of kind of this trapped area of water in the middle of a big continent. In order to do that, we actually need to go blow up an earthen dam and make a canal to escape. In order to do that, we have to give some dwarves an item called the nitro powder. That nitro powder is actually in the castle at the very beginning of the game, in a chest that's locked behind a door that is locked by the Mystic Key. That Mystic Key is held by the Prince of Elfheim, who's currently in a coma. He can only be woken with an item called the Jolt Tonic, which is currently held by the Good Witch Matoya. But right now, she's blind because her crystal eye has been stolen. It's being held by the Dark Wizard Astos, who will only reveal himself to you if you give him the Crown of Elfheim, which is here in the Marsh Cavern. So do all of that in the opposite order I said it, and you get through the first part of the game.
Yeah, it's more complicated than the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. So Kib just picked up the crown. They both had to fight a group of Pisco demons here, and they were able to take it down with the judgment staffs they had earlier, using a flare, as it's the quickest way to deal with them. The Pisco demons are actually pretty resistant to most forms of magic damage, so we don't really have a better way to do that, and any number from 2 to 4 can spawn. So it's safer to just assume that you're going to get a larger number and try to staff them to take them out, rather than a melee attack.
And frankly, you're going to already have the staff equipped from your Power of the Pirates if you've been running.
Yeah, I mean, they may change their... By turning on the memory cursor in the early going, it basically, anytime they get into combat, it's going to remember the last time, or the last command they were on for each of their individual characters. And so they can basically hold X and reissue a set of commands if they... Or they can hold L and R to flee automatically with everyone, and that won't actually change their commands. So it's up to them to decide if they want to do that. If you didn't need to fight anything in between the pirates and the Pisco demons, you can basically just hold X for the Pisco demons fight, and it will issue the commands you want.
On fights where you can melee kill enemies or judgment staff, for instance the Pisco demons later on, when we can kill them consistently with one hit, when you have about 3 of them is when it's kind of a wash. It's kind of what you do depends on where your cursors are. If you already have the judgment staff ready to go, might as well use it. If you've got attacks ready to go, might as well use that. It's not worth swapping at that point.
So here we see Kib is now the first one into the Western Keep to confront Astos. So once again, the lead is switched. Now, Astos, this upcoming fight, can use one of 2 different attacks. He can either a melee attack or use a death spell. If the death lands, it's likely to kill. It's going to instantly kill one of the characters. But if she issues 2 attack commands with her melee characters and then 2 judgment staff commands, that should be enough. But it also depends on what Astos does here in order to make this one-round fight.
And so Kib got perfect luck here. So it's going to be a quick fight for Kib. We'll see what happens to Crrool. There are a couple reasons we want to see if he does cast Death, to cast it on one of the melee characters. One is... Oh, it missed there. That's great for Crrool. If it does land on the mages, it can mess up our experience routing later on. Also, it can make the battle last one more turn, because you don't get to cast Flare twice.
Yeah, Astos is actually a pretty significant source of XP in the early going, so if one of the mages happens to die, it's going to lengthen the need for experience grinding later on. But that is not going to significantly lengthen it, just a couple fights.
No. The most frustrating thing is it makes your mages level at different times. It's harder to see, oh look, there was a level and move on. It's harder to count.
But in general, you're not going to see a lot of grinding in this run. It's largely not necessary. The enemies that we take care of over the course of the run are generally worth enough experience. The only significant grinding spot you may see is against Evil Eyes in the Ice Cavern, as we'll set up a little grind session for our mages to try to get them higher so that they can learn to cast certain spells that will help us later in the run.
And it's a very short grind. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a short grind, and it's pretty much the only instance of the grinding. So if you're familiar with the NES version, this is significantly faster. Even the GBA and PS1 versions are significantly longer than this version, because the glitch does not exist there. and we can't utilize the glitch to basically get extreme stat bonuses to overcome the fact that they're underleveled. So let's see. We're just going to take a quick look at the Thief and the Black Mage HP totals so far, because they're going to play a factor later on right now. And it looks like both of them have a pretty healthy total in the early going. Ideally, they just want to make sure that the Black Mage is over probably about 100 HP, just so that when they eventually get to the grinding section, they can survive a Thundara cast from Evil Eye, which does usually around 70 or 80.
Kib's Black Mage actually has extremely high hit points for this point in the game.
So that's great for her. That will...
I have completed the game with my Black Mage with fewer hit points on that.
I mean, probably the lowest we've ever seen is about as much as she has now on a Black Mage at the end of the game. So she's in great shape right now, and is extending her lead because it looks like Crrool's getting a little trouble with a Sahagin Big Eyes encounter over here.
So Sahagin Big Eyes, it's a fight we don't like much. Sahagins are basically sea wolves, and we've already mentioned how we don't like wolves. And those Big Eyes can paralyze you, and even if they fail to paralyze you, the animation time for their cast is frustrating.
So I'm just going to take this moment to thanks everyone for tuning in today to watch this one. This is just Game 1. This is a best-of-3 finals. Game 2 will probably be tomorrow morning, North American time. So it should be 9 a.m. Eastern between these two. Game 3 is probably likely to happen on Monday if it's necessary. We don't have it scheduled quite yet, but we'll be pressing the runners to schedule that, hopefully after this match today. And if you guys have any questions or want to know more about the run, feel free to ask us in the chat here in Speed Gaming, and we'll try to do our best to help you out with that. In the meantime, Crrool has stopped over at Matoya's cave and is giving her the Crystal Eye, and then she'll reward us with the Jolt Tonic we can take to the Elf Prince back in the Elven Castle. And he'll reward us with a Mystic Key, which will unlock a number of treasure rooms throughout various locations in the world, and including a nice key item we need immediately afterwards. So Kib is still in the lead at this moment. Maybe a minute or so ahead right now. It's not a significant lead at this point, though.
We say it's not done until Chaos dies, and I mean, really, a minute means absolutely nothing at this point. I'm almost reluctant to say that Kib has a lead, other than the fact that she technically does. We have some significant potential slowdowns coming up in the Cavern of Earth and in our Cavern of Ice especially.
So Kib has just picked up the Mystic Key from the Elven Prince, and then she actually exited the castle here and re-entered it, because it's faster than walking around to get to this treasure room that was locked by the Mystic Key in the back of the castle. So what she's going to be doing here is the next important glitch. She's going to take the Mithril Hammer from this first chest in this treasure room here. She's going to be glitching that into an item known as the Thief's Armlet, and putting 3 copies of it on each of our characters. So the Thief's Armlet has a huge amount of defense, and notably, it has bonus agility points. It's not something that was in the original versions of the game. It was part of the bonus items that was added, part of the bonus content added in the GBA and PSP versions. So the item ID of it just happens to correspond with the Mithril Hammer that happens to be in that chest. So we pick it up for there, and then stack the items on their characters for a huge agility boost, which should make running easier and should speed up the order of our characters taking turns in combat.
Yeah, and that's going to be our last really easy item menu for a while. So in order to perform the equipment glitch, you do need to have the originating item, in this case the Mithril Axe, has to be equipable by the character initiating the glitch. So the Mithril Hammer, rather. The Mithril Hammer can be equipped, well, hammers in general can be equipped by either the Warrior or the White Mage. So we have 2 characters. That's enough to do the glitch on everybody because you just go either direction. Later on, we're going to be starting with the next major glitch. Only the warrior is going to be able to perform the glitch, which makes if you want to put the item on every character, it's a little more complicated because you have to change your party order, which we will be doing later in the game. But that actually is the entire reason we have the warrior in the party, is for the equipment glitch. Because of the equipment glitch and getting very, very high level weapons, our most powerful character actually is going to be our thief, because the thief has a higher agility stat and gets more hits in per turn. And since most of our power is not coming from our physical attributes but from our weapons, our thief is going to be our major damage dealer. So that's why he's in the party. The mages are both in for spells. The black mage for the teleport and haste spells, and the white mage for Healar. The white mage is in the party strictly for the final battle of the game.
Yeah, Chaos can do quite a lot of damage on with its attacks. So Crrool actually did a very solid menuing and got into it out of Alfheim very quickly. And then he also stopped to pick up his gold needles, so now they've both done that. They just need needles in case they get petrified here. It is possible to go through this run without getting needles. It's not recommended at all for tournaments, because you're just placing blind faith in the fact that you're not going to get petrified.
Yeah. If you're grinding for world record or something, you'd probably skip it. But for racing, the risk is just too high.
So Kib is still probably about a minute to a minute and a half ahead right here, as we stop over in Mount Dwerger here to hand the nitro powder over to that dwarf Narek, so that he can open a canal that we can sail through to reach the remaining ocean in the world.
So Kib, a minute ago, picked up a mithril dagger that Crrool did not get. That's going to be a difference between the 2 routes, with Crrool relying more on the Judgment Staff and equipping Barbarian Swords on all of his characters, where Kib's going to be relying a little more on item magic. So our first major equipment glitch change we're going to see is actually going to be in Melman, which is the next time we're going to, when we do our favorite equipment menu of the game, because it gives us the most overpowered item.
Yeah, Kib is stopping here in Melmond. He's going to pick up steel gloves from the shop here, and it just happens to correspond to the item ID for a weapon known as the Barbarian Sword. This is the single most powerful weapon in this version of the game, normally only acquired by defeating the super boss in the PSP exclusive bonus dungeon. So we're kind of cheating it out here and just giving it to our characters to make them extremely overpowered, and from this point forward they're going to be capable of one-shotting almost any enemy with a melee attack with those swords, with the exception of the bosses.
And we will still be able to one-cycle most bosses. It is a ludicrously powerful weapon, and it's about triple the strength, effectively, of the previous most powerful weapons in the game, simply because not only does it have a very high damage output, but it also has a strength modifier on it, which really makes it powerful.
Kib's into the Earth Cave. Kib did not stop to play the 15-tile puzzle game on the boat. That is something that these runners may optionally do if you finish in second place. And the default first place time is 30 seconds. The default second place time is 1 minute. So if you opt to play the puzzle game on the boat and you finish with a time between 30 seconds and 1 minute, you have a 1 in 6 chance of winning an emergency exit, which can instantly warp you out of a dungeon. It could be a huge time save here, but it's also a huge risk to try that, because if you don't get it, you've basically sat there for 30 seconds playing the game and accomplished nothing, giving your opponent a chance to catch up or extend their lead.
Yeah. On average, it will lose you time, but when it saves you time, it saves you a lot of time. So if you're already behind, it might be something good to do. Also, once again, if you're trying to just grind out PBs or world records, it can save you a lot of time.
Alright, so Kib is onto the Earth Cavern, and Crrool, meanwhile, made the difference in his route. He put 4 Barbarian Swords in all of his characters. Kib, meanwhile, only has the Barbarian Swords on her melee characters, as she's planning to use a more powerful weapon that we'll find later on. but she won't get that until after we've defeated the Lich. So she's all the way to the Vampire now on excellent pace for a race.
Yes.
24-minute Vampire is pretty much a great time. And Kib also opted to take a safety save at the very beginning of the 3rd floor, as that's when the dangerous encounters can actually begin in here. You can potentially get ambushed by cockatrices or large groups of enemies, which might paralyze or petrify the entire party before you can even react.
And this is the point where we would be using the emergency exit. We had it right here, the vampire fight.
Yeah, if we had it. So yeah, if she happened to have the emergency exit, she could use it here, and she could basically skip the entire walk back out of Earth Cave, which can save, depending on the RNG, can save anywhere from like 10 seconds to a minute and a half, sometimes even more.
So Kib just ran across some ochre jellies. That is the first possible 1 in 64 encounter of the game.
Yeah, Crrool's getting poor RNG at this point, and Kib's in pretty good shape so far. Still doesn't mean anything yet in the early going, because it's still only about 25 minutes into at least a minimum an hour and a half run. So here you see Kib getting cockatrices, and her warrior gets petrified. Luckily for her, only the warrior gets petrified, and she's got the needles from earlier, so she can clear that up without any issues.
So that's the point at which, if we had not gotten those safety needles, Kib would be in a lot of trouble at this point.
Crrool is opting for healing at the start of the 3rd floor here instead of safety saving, which is a little different.
Yeah, usually you will not see us before the grind actually healing the warrior and the thief to full hit points. And he's letting the thief bleed out some hit points with the poison. We do actually need them to die later in the game, and so we want to keep them under about 60-70 hit points.
Well, Crrool is a fantastic tournament racer who participates in many tournaments, including those on Speed Gaming here. So Crrool may be just taking additional risks, knowing that he's behind at this point, trying to take the opportunity to see if he can save a few seconds and not save and try to catch up. It does leave him vulnerable if he gets like extremely poor RNG, but that's a runner's choice at this point, and he knows what's at stake. And that's a terrible ambush here for him.
So if all 4 characters get paralyzed, we could be waiting minutes to get out of this fight. So he's probably going to Judgment Staff this with the Black Mage.
Yeah, so to quickly explain the differences between their route at this point, Crrool is using an older route that focuses primarily on the Barbarian Sword and the Judgment Staff. So his combat options when confronting enemies will be using the Barbarian Sword as a melee item, or using the Judgment Staff as an item in combat to cast Flare to clear enemy groups. Kib's route, on the other hand, is a slightly newer route, which has more nuance to it. She'll be picking up some additional items that for glitching, which will give her access to a Mage's Staff, a Black Robe, and a Gauntlets over the course of the run. And she can use those in combat to cast Fyreth, Blizzara, and Thundara on enemies, which have shorter animations and usually do enough damage anyway to kill the enemies.
But they do require the mages to use them, generally not the warrior or the thief. So the mages focus on magic, and the warrior and thief focus on melee, which is getting closer to intended routes, which kind of rubs me wrong, but I still do it.
So yeah, the advantage of Kib's route is basically she spends a little more time menuing in the early going, and it gives her additional options, including options that are shorter than using the Judgment Staff to clear larger groups. So she can save time if she gets a lot of unrunnable groups, or something like that. Crrool, on the other hand, has limited options with his, but he also requires less menuing in his part, so he can just go a little bit faster, doesn't have to worry too much about going out of his way to pick up extra items or anything like that.
And Crrool also has a little more, it's easier for Crrool to quickly take out the bosses. So if you have a really good run without a whole lot of unrunnables, Crrool's route actually can be a little faster, but Kib's is on average faster.
Yeah, Kib's route is a little bit more consistent in terms of its time, but Crrool is also an excellent runner and is known to have extremely good marathon friendly marathon and tournament style luck, especially with FF1. His most recent race, I think, was a month ago in the winners final, where he was also facing Kib, and I believe he posted a new PB at the time.
Yes.
So.
And Crrool also was the winner of the first Total Chaos tournament.
Yeah, so Crrool is a very seasoned runner here that has been playing this for a long time and has a significant experience advantage over Kib. Although Kib is using a slightly newer route, but Kib has also posted the best times in the tournament this year. 3 of the 4 best times have come from her end, so she is fully capable of taking him on. And she's also using her patented strategy where she names her Black Mage Bonsai in an effort to coax the game into giving her great HP level ups, and so far it's working. So, but I mean, it might be canceled out by the fact that she named her warrior and her thief after me. I don't know. It's kind of a risk to do that. She drubbed me pretty good in the last race.
So the story of Bonsai is one of the possible random names you can get if you hit the select button when setting up your party at the beginning. It'll give them a random name, and Bonsai is one of the random names. But Bonsai got out of some really tough situations. Entire party was paralocked by enemies that have one-hit kill physical attacks, and for about 2 minutes, Bonsai just tanked hits without getting damage for some reason, and then had high hit points. So Bonsai has kind of become her lucky charm.
Yeah, Kib is still again on fantastic pace here, and is open to lead of probably at least 3 minutes at this point. So she's doing her best to take advantage of the great R&D she's getting to build as much of a lead as possible, and then hopefully she can absorb that over the course of the run to take game 1 and just take Crrool's best shot. But this won't decide the game, the championship either way, because game 2 will be tomorrow.
So Kib has now reached back where she fought the vampire. She had to go get that earth rod that Crrool just picked up to open up that floor plate.
So yeah, the main goal here in Earth Cavern is to go down and confront the Lich at the end. We couldn't do that before because it's located on the 5th floor, and as soon as you get to the end of the 3rd floor, you find a little stone plaque blocking our progress. So once we get the vampire down and grab the Star Ruby from the chest, we have to detour out of the Earth Cave to go pick up the Earth Rod farther west on the continent, and then head our way back to once we have the Earth Rod to be able to move that plaque out of the way and get to the lower 2 floors. So Kib is still doing excellent at this point. She's taken the high path on the 4th floor. There's 3 little paths you can actually take on that floor. The middle one's technically the fastest, although the top one is only 2 steps longer. And you could basically take something on the order of 7 or 8 steps a second, so it's a split second slower to do that. Crrool has now re-entered their Cavern of Earth. He's on the 2nd floor, so he's 3 floors back right now.
Kib got some bad bat luck that led her to an encounter.
Kib opting to heal her mages here, and actually that might be enough health on her Black Mage to let her tank a Blizzara if it happens to land.
So, Lich does have a chance of casting Blizzara in the first turn. Usually it will one-hit kill the entire party with nothing you can do about it. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, her Black Mage, in particular Bonsai here, looks in great shape to survive a Blizzara if it's unlucky enough to get cast by Lich. But thankfully the Barbarian Swords from her melee characters just take him down in 2 hits. Crrool, meanwhile, getting another terrible ambush over here, which is slowing him down. So, I mean, these aren't... Most encounters that, such as that, aren't usually very dangerous to Crrool. They can be dangerous if they manage to ambush and paralyze his whole party, but in general, the worst part of it is it's just going to slow him down, because he's going to have to wait for 9 enemies to each take their turn if an ambush happens like that. And over time, that adds up.
Yeah, but Paralock, it's something that we worry about because it's very bad if it happens. It's fairly rare. The reason is the party order matters. Whatever character's in the first slot is going to receive 50% of attacks. The second character is going to get 25% of attacks. The third and fourth characters are each going to have a 12.5% chance of getting attacked. So that means if you have a big ambush and the paralyzing, which does not kill, so they can keep attacking a paralyzed enemy, a paralyzed party member. There's each hit is only a 12.5% chance they'll even attack one of your low, your remaining mage, and then it may not actually paralyze them. So it's something that we worry about, but it's not something we're terribly concerned about. We'll save just in case it happens, but we'll usually try to run until we have about 2 party members paralyzed.
So yeah, as Mutsky in the chat just noticed, Crrool actually had a ridiculously great B3, B4, B5 overall, and just made up some time. So he's probably shaved maybe a minute off the lead that Kib had earlier. This little cutscene that plays out after you defeat Lich probably takes about a minute to play out, roughly.
You do have one of these after every fiend is killed. It shows the unlocking of a bonus dungeon that we will not be visiting because we get the items from them for free.
Yeah, it's not necessary for us to visit any of the bonus content in this game, which is a little unfortunate for an 80% run. But there's other categories that actually take advantage of that content, including all bosses, and I believe Crrool also has run a full bestiary percent, which includes all the extra enemies and bosses that were added in the bonus content in this version. A run that I think at his best time so far is like 12 hours, so it takes quite a while to do that.
Yeah, because you have the 164 chance enemies, and you just got to run around circles until you fought them all, and it's a long process.
So yeah, we're just going to keep an eye on this. Crrool is still getting pretty good luck right here. I mean, while Crrool had made up that time, Kib also got an ambush by a wolf, which slowed her down a little bit. So yeah,
Crrool's within a minute now, I'd say.
He's getting there. Kib's getting these little ambushes, which hurt a little bit. So if you're not familiar with preemptive or ambush encounters in this game, basically, if you run into a preemptive encounter, your first opportunity to run will be guaranteed. And if you get an ambush, then every enemy on that gets 1 free opportunity to attack your characters before you can issue any commands or try to run away. So you're constantly fleeing from enemies. Is there any way to defeat the bosses without training your dudes? Pretty much. That's what we're doing. I mean, we're not really training our dudes so much. I mean, we have about the minimum amount of experience that we need to have at this point of the game. The barbarian sword that we have is making up a significant stat deficiency or level.
I would like to point out that Crrool has caught up and passed Kib at this point.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So I mean, that's just how important the RNG can be in this one. So Crrool is also setting up a more complicated menu here that involves picking up more glitched items, whereas Crrool usually delays doing his glitching until after he gets the canoe and exits the town here. I don't know why he does that, but it doesn't really matter either way.
Crrool also is not doing the doing nearly as much in this menu.
Yeah, Crrool's going to be putting black garbs on at least 2 of his characters, maybe 3. We'll see.
Usually just 2, I think. Yeah.
No, he's just going to do 2 because that's the older route. Used to do 3. You could optionally do 3 if you wanted to.
Yeah, but Kib putting them on 3 characters and putting on some Lust Daggers. Lust Daggers are not as powerful as a Barbarian Sword, but they're much more powerful weapons than the Judgment Staff, which her mages have been using. But the big thing is they have a huge boost to agility. So the mages will be going much early in the turn order and still be powerful enough to one-hit kill the grind enemy. But when it comes to large groups of enemies, for casting spells later, the mages are very likely to go first in the turn order. And we'll be able to nuke those enemy groups without having to wait for all the enemies to attack.
So Crrool's hit a pretty good stretch of RNG here, where he's just not getting anywhere near as many encounters or as many poor encounters as Kib has been getting. And he's working his way over to the ice cave here. But yeah, I mean, to explain what we did with the glitching in Crescent there, Crrool picked up a mithril, was it an axe there?
I believe it's an axe, yes.
Yeah, the mithril axe in the weapon shop, and he's turning that into a piece of armor known as the black garb and putting that on his thief, and I believe his white mage?
Thief and black mage, I believe.
Okay. But the advantage of this one is it's another item from the bonus content of content in the GBA and PSP versions of the game that adds even more agility to our characters to increase their chances to act earlier and run more reliably from encounters. And Kib did that, but she also did it on a third character, so she put it on the white mage. So 3 of her characters have agility from armor, more than Crrool, whereas only 2 of Crrool's characters have that. And additionally, she picked up the Lust Dagger, which also pushes their agility sky high on her 2 mages. So they're going to be acting very quickly in combat. So if you see her get into a fight with Pisco Demons or something like that over here in the Ice Cave, you're going to notice that in general, they're going to act very quickly in the turn order and use their Judgment Staff to take them out.
Additionally, I believe she also made the black robes at that point too, which will allow us later in the game to cast Blizzard for free.
Yeah, she took the opportunity to basically glitch that in the middle of glitching the black garbs and then taking it off so that she can put it in her inventory and use it as an item for combat. She doesn't need it here. She won't need it until a little bit later on. But this is a convenient time that you can glitch it and just get it in your inventory so you can use it.
And Kib's route is very careful when glitches are done to put all the items in the correct spots for easy swapping between them later. That's nothing Crrool has to worry about so much because he only uses 1 combat item. Here in the Cavern of Ice, this is like no run really begins until you're out of the Cavern of Ice. There's so much that can go wrong here. We've already seen some Pisco Demons. We're seeing some undead enemies. We also have white dragons, which can one-shot the party. We have dark wizards, which can one-shot the party. We have unrunnable Ice King as Winter Wolf encounters. We have what else do we have in here? We have some jerk birds here again. There's just all kinds of opportunity for this cavern to go wrong.
So Kib's actually better equipped in this situation to try to run from these enemies if she gets a situation like this, but she's also getting another ambush here, so they're both struggling a lot with these undead packs right here. And Crrool was in a bit of trouble because he was down 3 guys, so he had to use the Judgment Staff with his thief to get out of that, and luckily he didn't get paralyzed. Now Kib is on the same scenario, but she's actually going to use the Mage's Staff here, which has a shorter animation and will do enough damage to kill them. So it's one of the advantages of her route. So if she runs into them, she'll have a slightly quicker way to deal with them. Crrool now getting an unrunnable Ice Geek is over here. So we haven't really explained unrunnables. I mean, certain enemy formations in the game are basically flagged in the game as unrunnable, but if you attempt to run from them, there's no feedback that you can or cannot do so. You just will basically try to flee pointlessly for any time you try. So Ice Gigas is an unrunnable encounter in this dungeon here. Pisco Demons are an unrunnable encounter here. So if she happens to see them, or if either of these guys happen to see them, they will be forced to stop and kill them before they can continue on.
So Crrool is walking around some spikes right here to drain hit points from his warrior and thief, so they'll die in the upcoming grind fight. Since Kib has not been healing her thief or warrior, she will not need to do that.
So Crrool, actually walked back and forth on those icy tiles on that one floor here to reduce the damage, to do some damage to his characters to get his thief down to about 70 HP, so that it will be in range to die to a Thundara here against Evil Eye. Kib, meanwhile, has gotten to Evil Eye and is trying to have Evil Eye kill off her 2 melee characters via the Thundara attack or another method if it so chooses. But she's got what she wants here. So now 2 of her characters are down, and the other 2 remaining characters are going to get double the experience because the share increases for the surviving characters.
And now Kib is going to fight this battle over and over again until the characters are a level between 17 and 19, depending on high 17, low 19, depending on how risky you want to be. Most people go until level 18. Some people do 18 plus 1.
18 is usually pretty safe. Yeah. 17 plus 1 if you want to try to be a little riskier and hope that you get some more encounters on the way there. Yeah. But
there's one minor grind you can do later to fix it.
Yeah, there's one more opportunity we can use to grind if we need to. In terms of how the grind changes based on their routes, I would say Crrool's at a little bit more risk of getting the Evil Eye going early in the turn order and maybe jumping her attacks unnecessarily, just due to the fact that he's got lower agility on his characters, whereas with Kib's group, the two mages have a super high agility and they pretty reliably outspeed the Evil Eye.
So Crrool's probably going to heal his mages before the rest of the grind here.
Crrool's Thief actually got petrified, which was perfect, because that's the same thing basically in the game as being dead, but it also leaves him with some amount of HP, so he doesn't have to heal it later. Kib has sorted what she needs to. She's going to stop at level 17 here and try to make it up to level 19 by the end of Mount Gulg, so that she can go purchase all the spells she needs for the rest of the run. And so she's done with the grind here. Crrool, meanwhile, is going to be level 16 on his mages. He's probably going to go up to level 18, as that was more common with the older route.
Yes. And Kib did not revive the warrior because for two reasons. One gets the thief a little more chance to get some more hit points, and two, there is a slight chance that if the ninja levels up enough, he can learn haste as well later in the game. It can potentially save you a turn later on, especially considering the extreme health that the Black Mage has. Might be worth picking it up, but if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world.
So actually, Kib's in pretty good shape here. Once again, her Black Mage at 227 HP is like being a beast this run. So he's almost safe for cast at this point.
Yeah.
And that's not for another 40 minutes.
Yeah, 250 to 275 is kind of the range you want to be as your minimum. Now, we do have an item we can pick up later that will allow us to increase our hit point pool for the duration of one battle. We will be picking that up. Unless Kib gets crazy looking, didn't even have to do that. But it does cost a turn if we have to use it.
So Crrool, meanwhile, has opted to resurrect and heal all of his characters here. He's not going to be trying to get an additional experience for his thief or anything like that. So he's just going to... I mean, there's no more grinding or no more setups at this point for his character. So he's just going to try to 4-man this while Kib's going to be down a man and up through most of Mount Gulg, and then she'll probably res him just before fighting Marilith there.
And part of the reason Crrool is doing it this way, once again, Kib with that Lust Dagger has higher odds of running with those mages than Crrool does, and so he needs all 4 characters to make it easier to run, whereas Kib has pretty much the same odds of running now, or better with those Lust Daggers, but once again, not as well equipped for boss fights.
Well, certain boss fights. I mean,
certain boss fights, yeah.
It just depends on the damage rolls that you get in combat, because most bosses up to this point are capable of being... You're capable of 2-hitting them, but they may occasionally roll a little low on their damage rolls, and it might extend the fight an extra round. It shouldn't be a problem on Crrool's side. Crrool should be a guaranteed 1 round because he's got 4 characters that will all be attacking. But the Lust Dagger doesn't do anywhere near as much damage as a Barbarian Sword against bosses. So it's primarily used in combat. If you're going to be using it in combat, it's primarily to be using it against normal enemies and not bosses. Or just as some cleanup damage maybe against bosses if you want to just make sure that your melee characters might low roll a little bit. So Kib has made it to Citadel of Trials, and she's opened a bit of a lead here again. So as you guys can see, they keep going back and forth on the lead here, but this is starting to open up once again on Kib's side. And I would say that she's better equipped with her equipment setup for the remainder of the run at this point, because she has a wider variety of options for dealing with enemy encounters that are unrunnable. The only thing she has to do at this point is she's a little lower on experience than he is, based on the fact that she cut her grind a little short, so she's got to make sure that she gets to level 19 by the end of Mount Gulg. But they're also going to actually probably diverge a little bit in terms of their routing and performing the next one.
Yeah, if they do split up here, their routes will converge again at the Sunken Shrine. So there is a guaranteed encounter that Kib just had once, about to have it again with these nightmares. Nightmares are runnable, but they're amongst... Oh, Crrool just got wiped.
Wow.
So that's the Sandworm. That is a rare death. Did he safety save?
No, he did not. Not at least... I'm not sure where his last save was, but it's probably so far back that it doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, it might have been before the grind.
So that's a really unfortunate turn of events for Crrool here. It is like a low chance of happening, but it is something that can happen, and Crrool could have opted to take a safety save there. I mean, it was his choice to or not to take that. But I mean, in general, it's a very rare occurrence, so it's not strictly necessary for them to do in that. So that's unfortunate, and it looks like he has actually forfeited from the race here, so we're going to have to play it out with Kib here and see if she can finish her run successfully, and if so, she will take a 1-0 lead into tomorrow's match. That's really unfortunate, because you don't want to see that, especially at the championship level. It's just very rare and really unlucky.
That just goes to show that no matter how good you are, sometimes the game can just decide to take it from you. Because there's nothing about Crrool that's not a great runner. Crrool is one of the top runners of this game, has been for a long time. And there's nothing he could have done to prevent that other than a safety save.
Yeah, it takes only a couple seconds to save here, and it can save you minutes here, so his choice not to is going to cost him here. But it may not cost him the entire match.
Yeah,
it may not cost him this game, not necessarily the whole match. So we'll have to see if he's a little more careful with that tomorrow, or if he just spites the game and tries to continue on without saving again.
I will say that is an extremely rare death. I think I've actually only had it happen to me once or twice out of hundreds of runs. It's something we worry about. It's something lots of us safety save about. But if you're behind in a race like Crrool was, it's pretty common to skip that save.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I mean, it's perfectly capable of the game to not get that encounter, to not encounter them in an ambush formation, or for Earthquake to not hit all 4 characters and kill them all. So everything basically went wrong in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something that can happen here, and I mean, it's why the runners take safety saves, because of situations like this. So they can give themselves a recovery option if they do take a save like that.
So back to what Kib's doing. Kib just upgraded her characters. Instead of a warrior, thief, white mage, and black mage, she now has a knight, ninja, white wizard, and black wizard. That increases our options on what we can equip. It also changes what spells can be learned, which is the major reason we are doing it.
She's done that, and she is now going to go do a little shopping section before taking on Mount Gulg. So Crrool's path here would have been a little bit different after he had gotten out of the Citadel and gone and upgraded his character's classes here. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see that tomorrow and show you guys what we mean about that. In the meantime, she's ducked in and picked up the bottled fairy from the Desert Caravan vendor, and then in this version of the game, after you've actually purchased that bottle, an additional menu of items opens up that you can purchase the consumable items that can be used in combat to give some bonuses to. In this case, she picked up Giant's Tonics. They can be used in combat to grant a 200 HP bonus, 200 max HP bonus to characters for the duration of a combat. It only really factors into the final fight, and it's only as a safety measure. if our characters do not gain enough HP over the course of their level ups. Ooh, and
Ooh.
Kib's getting blocked by the NPC.
That's a rare block.
I don't know if she knows. She can probably just... She can either try to push him out of the way here. She could actually duck into that item shop there and reset his position.
Yeah, that's about as bad as that block gets right there.
But that's really unfortunate for her. But I mean, it's not a huge...
Not as unfortunate as what happened to Crrool.
Yeah, she's aware of what's happened at this point, so she's just going to have to play it out.
I think it may actually be rarer than what happened to Crrool, though. I've only seen that NPC block once ever until now. Just a day of rare stuff.
So the bottle fairy, she took it here to Gaia, and as soon as she walked into the town, it unleashed the fairy, and it flew to the spring back here in the back of the town. And as thanks for doing that, it rewards us with Oxyale, which is a key item we need to be able to access the Sunken Shrine that's coming up. Not going to be using it immediately, but in other versions of the game, you actually have to go into your inventory and use the key item to be able to unlock the fairy. In this version, it happens automatically as soon as you walk one step into the town. And then now Kib, now that she's got that out of the way, she's actually going to go here into Mount Gulg and just work her way through this. And you'll notice that for the most part, she's prioritizing walking on the lava tiles, as this damages her characters, but there's no risk of encounters for any tile you step on lava. So every tile she steps on is actually going to damage her characters for 1 point of damage. That adds up if you step on enough tiles, but it significantly reduces the number of encounters she's likely to get over the course of this. She's also going to take a heal here, just to guarantee that a really unfortunate ambush does not wipe her here. So, for those of you that are just joining us, Kibetha has basically already won this match, but she's going to have to play it out in order to get credit for winning this match here. Crrool ran into a very unfortunate sandworm ambush, as you can see on stream, and before he could react, he was killed by an earthquake attack on all 4 party members, and he did not take a safety save in a place where he could recover it. So he's unfortunately forfeited this race here, but luckily for him, this is a best-of-3 finals, and this is only Game 1 here today, so Game 2 will be tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and he will still have an opportunity to win the Grand Finals from this point, but he'll have to wait for tomorrow to get his chance to win his first match. Kib, meanwhile, has made her way through all of Mount Gulg. There's not anything particularly special about it. It's probably the shortest of the 4 elemental dungeons we have to go through, just due to the fact that walking on the lava tiles reduces so many encounters that you're likely to just basically blaze through this really quickly.
It actually has a very high encounter rate, just we avoid it.
So Kib had no problems with Merilith here. So this is the second of the 4 fiends that she's defeated here. And she'll be watching a small cutscene here showing us the opening of the bonus dungeon called Hellfire Chasm. Once again, we're not going to see it though, unfortunately, in this run. So it factors more into like all bosses and things like that. But she's all done here. She's going to take the teleport in the back of the dungeon back out, and she's going to continue on her run. She's actually going to go into a little shopping section here to pick up the spells now that she has enough experience for her characters. So she's going to stop first here in Elfheim, visit the level 4 black magic shop, and she's going to pick up haste for the black mage, and if he happens to have enough experience, she'll also pick it up for the thief. It doesn't look like he has enough from the grinding, unfortunately for her, so no haste on the thief today. So now she's all set with that. She's going to head into Melmond. First return trip to Melmond here. And she's going to stop in the white magic shop first, pick up Hilara for the white mage, and then duck into the black magic shop and pick up teleport. So with those 3 spells combined, that's all that we need for the entirety of the run. Hilara is going to substitute as a heal for now when we need a heal in the menus, and it also will be used on Chaos. to survive his many attacks. Teleport will warp us back one floor, or for one floor dungeons, will warp us out to the world map and save us a bunch of backtracking time. And then haste will be used primarily as well on either the fiends or the final boss in order to double the number of attacks that a melee character does, to try to shorten some fights from 3 rounds to 2 rounds, or 2 rounds to 1 round. And in Chaos's case, it's probably going to be at least a 6 or 7 round fight.
So more NPC issues there.
Yeah, she's getting all the blocks today. That little blue-haired NPC can often get in your way, and it just slows everything down. It's almost like chasing after her, who wants to like push her into the boat.
Those blue-haired guys can block you in several different points in the game. We just don't like them.
Yeah, we'll have to see if she hits the trifecta on Lufenia coming up.
Did she get blocked at the first item shop too?
I didn't see, but I don't know.
I'm just gonna say yes at the way this is going.
Yeah, we're just gonna assume it at this point, that she had the worst possible luck, even though Crrool is the one that is currently laying with a dirt nap with all of his characters. So, Kib, meanwhile, now is into the Sunken Shrine, and she has 2 objectives here. First, she's got to go right up to the upper floors to go pick up a Rosetta Stone, which is a key item we need to be able to advance in the next dungeon. And then she's got to go left to confront the Kraken and reignite the 3rd of the 4 elemental crystals.
You have all the trolley items hidden inside of a dungeon on casual play. The Rosetta Stone is the one that gets you the most, because if you can easily just not get it and have to come back into the shrine later in the game.
Alright, so Kib's now on the 4th floor, which is the 2nd floor. So you actually start on the 3rd floor of this dungeon, which is a little unusual. So she's actually, you start on the 3rd floor, you go up to the 5th floor to get and this is the 2nd water elemental encounter she's getting here. That's really unusual. So she gets up here finally to the 5th floor after all those unrunnable encounters, and there's actually no encounters on this floor, so she can just dash around to the chest in the back of the floor and pick up the Rosetta Stone. And then we're going to see the first use of warp, or I'm sorry, teleport in this case.
And she's probably going to teleport twice in a row here. I don't think she does the weird new thing some of us do. That's not as good as the old way.
Yeah, so she's going to teleport twice to go back to the start, and then she's going to head left instead to start making her way towards Kraken. So when she gets to the 2nd last floor before Kraken, she's going to detour into a treasure room and pick up a light axe and use that for one more glitching session, where she's going to put light axe, or she's going to turn it into survival vests, which have the highest amount of bonus agility of all armor pieces in the game, and put that on all of her characters. And additionally, she's going to put some lordly robes on her white mage, and then the lordly robes will boost the intelligence of the white mage, and it'll also have a nice agility boost from these survival vests, and that should give her enough agility and intelligence to be able to use any of her glitched items to cast, like Fire Thundara, Blizzara, to kill anything she needs to from this point forward.
Yes, the only enemies still requiring judgment staffs, I believe, are going to be the Ice Gigases and the Earth Elementals.
Ice Gigases, Earth Elementals, Purple Worms, yeah. If she happens to run into them in later on, they have high HP totals, and her intelligence might not be enough to do enough damage here. She's trying to run from these ghosts, which is, you can't do that.
So she gets to lose a turn here, wait for them to attack. Hope it didn't get too many cast paralysis, and she's gonna use the Mage's Staff here to wipe them out.
Wow, they just blasted her warrior. Blasted me in the face. That's pretty unusual. I mean, usually the gear we have prevents taking that much damage, but critical hits ignore defense, and there were quite a few of them there.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
I've never seen them do it in this version of the game. It's a lot more common in PS1 and GBA to see that happen, because ghosts hit really hard in those versions. So she's healing up her warrior here, just because of the very unusual circumstance. Now she's going to put the survival vests on everyone. She's actually going to put 4 copies on the black mage here. And if you're familiar at all with the equipment glitch, you know that we can put basically any piece of armor, glitch any piece of armor onto almost any other slot, which includes the shield slot here. But unfortunately for us, certain pieces of equipment don't have a blocking animation associated with them in the game files. So if you put a piece of gear that doesn't have a blocking animation in there and a character happens to block in combat, it actually hard locks the game. So for the most part, the runners leave the shield slot unequipped, so that there's no risk of that throughout the run. After this point of the run, though, survival vests are actually safe to equip on there. There is an associated animation for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's the most confusing thing that there are items that do work there, because the why it crashes makes complete sense. What does not make sense is why survival vests, feathered caps, lordly robes, and ribbons do have a parry animation.
Yeah, it's a little unusual. So to briefly explain the equipment glitch, unless you want to do that, Shin.
Yeah, I can do that for a second. You've been taking all the work. The equipment glitch allows you to change weapons into armor and armor into weapons. The way it does that is every weapon in this game and every piece of armor in this game has basically a number associated to it with an item table. So if you were to take a... we'll pretend that we're talking about the first menu of the game. We'll pretend that the hammer has an weapon ID of 1, and that the knight's armor has a armor ID of 1. If you go using memory cursor, you try to select the possible items after buying the hammer from your weapon slot, while paging to a different character's armor slot, it brings up that number 1 ID and the armor slot of a different character. That allows us to access weapons and armor that we don't have access to normally. We're able to do it for free because we only have to buy the one originating item. We can equip items on slots not supposed to be equipped on for characters that aren't supposed to be able to equip them. It's extremely broken, and we use it extensively throughout the run to get items we are not supposed to have access to. And our favorite caped octopus is dead.
Yes, he looked really good while we were killing him, though.
Yes.
Which is important. He's very dapper.
Yes. He is the least dangerous of the 4 fiends in this version of the game because we are basically immune to physical attacks. Casually, he's actually very tough because he hits like a truck. But since, our character wearing they're wearing armor on their head, their hands, and their body, and as a shield, they got enough armor to block those attacks. I'm sure they look quite funny too.
Yeah, you can't actually see what they look like, but we can. If we had like an artist rendering, I wish we could provide you guys. But at this point, Kib needs to go now here to the Waterfall Cavern. It's located pretty close to the town of Onrak, so it's very convenient to do it here. In a lot of other versions of the game, you actually visit here first. But in this particular version, since we can go pick up a piece of gear via the glitch, which greatly increases intelligence, it's actually a great idea to go into Sunken Shrine and do that first before coming here. A lot of times they go here to pick up a ribbon and the warp cube that's in the final treasure room here. So upon entering this room, there's a forced encounter tile on this first tile here, and she picked up a bunch load of money, which she probably didn't mean to do, from the one chest, and then she picked up a ribbon, and then she has to talk to this robot over here to pick up the warp cube, which is one of the 2 key items you need to be able to access Tiamat. There's basically 2 key items are needed to reach the 2 different parts of the dungeon leading to Tiamat, which is the last of the 4 elemental fiends. And then Kib is going to use the ribbon here, and she's going to glitch it into an item called the Gigantax. We don't actually need the Gigantax for anything, so she's going to leave it in her inventory and then reverse glitch it into copies of the ribbons and put it on her characters. So it's the only piece of gear we pick up in this run to glitch the equivalent armor item, or the equivalent, in this case, weapon item, and then turn around and glitch it to create more copies of the armor item. Usually we just pick up one copy of the item and glitch it into the other table or the other type of item. So, once again, I'll just briefly recap here. If you're watching Game 1 of the Grand Finals of the FF1 PSP Total Chaos 3 tournament, this is our third tournament, third year hosting it. Crrool was the winner of the first tournament 2 years ago. Crrool and Kib are here in the Grand Finals in Game 1, and Crrool has taken an unfortunate sandworm ambush a little over halfway through the run, and unfortunately for him that wiped his party, and he did not have a safety save in a convenient position, so he basically would have probably lost this had he played it out, and he opted to forfeit. So Kib will have to complete the run to get credit to be up 1-0 in the series, and then at that point, Game 2 will be hosted here tomorrow on Speed Gaming at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And Game 3, if it's necessary, will be hopefully scheduled Monday. We'll double check with that after this race today.
And I would like to point out that I'm thoroughly enjoying chat, doing all the math to figure out just how unusual Crrool's death was there, and it looks like they're coming up with 1 in 1,213 is the odds of that occurring.
I mean, I think it was 50-50. It was either going to happen or it didn't.
Well, there you go. Yes, it is a very rare death. I've only had it happen to me once, and if those numbers are correct, it's weird that it happened to me that time.
It's really unusual. But I mean, Crrool did not opt to take a safety save there. He could have opted, and it only cost him a few seconds of time, but he was behind at that point, and he might have felt pressured to try to save some time. So for whatever reason, he opted not to save there. But he's fully aware that that is absolutely a possibility, even if it's not a very likely possibility. So he made his choice, and unfortunately for him, it didn't work out today.
Yeah, there are certain places that very rare deaths can happen that most of us just, kind of ignore. Another one that I've seen happen once or twice is Tiamat 2 just getting a weird cycle and wiping out the party. It's extremely rare. Most people still don't save ahead of Tiamat 2 because it is so rare. Unfortunately, did not work out for Crrool today, but he's still a much better runner than I am. I can say that for sure, and he'll be back tomorrow and in good form.
Knowing him, he'll get the luck of the gods tomorrow, and he'll set a new PB, as he did when he faced Kib in the winners final a month ago. So, Crrool is still fully capable of winning this tournament here. He's just going to can't make any more mistakes from this point on. At least no more crippling mistakes. So Kib, meanwhile, has visited, after she got out of the waterfall cave, she picked up the warp cube. She took the Rosetta Stone from the Sunken Shrine over to Melmond, talked to an NPC there to translate it, and then flew over here to the town of Lufenia so that she could speak the language of the locals, and they could hand her the chime key item. She needs the chime to enter this tower here, the Mirage Tower. At the end of the Mirage Tower, the warp cube that she picked up at the end of the waterfall cavern is needed to transport to the Flying Fortress, and at the end of the Flying Fortress is Tiamat. So basically, she needed to pick up 3 key items to be able to make her way through the entirety of this dungeon to get to him.
So with Crrool having been taken down, I'm hoping that Kib will spend a little time trying to find a certain special enemy for us.
Yeah, we're getting a little hype here because we're getting pretty close to the floor where our old pal Warmack spawns. So if you guys want to toss some less RNG in the chat, we're going to start working our way towards getting him up there. He hasn't made an appearance in a tournament match in a little while.
I think he's shown up once so far in the tournament. We still have not seen a Tyrannosaur, an Iron Golem, or a Earth Elemental in the Cavern of Earth, I believe.
There's definitely been Iron Golems. There's been at least 2 Iron Golems.
Okay.
So we'll see what's going on here. So she's made her way through this one. She got through the forced Blue Dragon encounter here, and now she's onto the Flying Fortress. So this is going to be 5 floors, but she doesn't have to detour for anything, so she's just going to work her way through all 5 floors. And the only unrunnables she's really worried about on these first 2 floors are the Evil Eyes. So on the 5th and final floor, where Tiamat is, we may see our old pal Warmech. We'll see what happens, though. She's now on the 3rd floor, and I think she's gotten distracted by the typing in the SRL chat. But she's fine.
I'm trying to bleed some time from her. That's what I do.
Yeah, we're ramping up the entertainment factor for you guys, so I hope you appreciate that. Or at least we're trying to. It's up to the runners if they want to do it or not. So meanwhile, she's getting these vampire lords as an ambush, but not a particularly dangerous one. And now she's on the 5th floor here. So we'll see what she does here. She may do it. She may have to do it after doing Tiamat. She may not do it at all. Oh, she's walking backwards, so she might be doing it. I hope for her sake she's healed up a little bit, just in case of an ambush.
Yeah. Did she take a save?
I did not see a save, but she does look fairly healthy. So just for you guys, she might try to spawn a Warmech here. This is a kind of a rare encounter, so there's no guarantee she's going to get it in a timely fashion, and if she doesn't, she may just opt to move on.
Yeah, it's only a 164 encounter, and it's not a very high encounter rate floor. Speaking of health, her ninja could use a little more.
Yeah, that actually might be a benefit if she happens to fight a Warmech, because a Warmech is worth a lot of experience here. So she's going to opt to fight Tiamat here. Now, for those of you that are worried that she's not going to see a Warmech, she could still see one after Tiamat. So don't give up your hope yet. So Kib's going to actually change her... Oh, she opted not to do that, so she's just going to attack this one. Some rounds opt to attack with that and try to haste one of the melee characters to try to see if you can get it to a 1-round fight. But no problems on Tiamat's side. Tiamat can use a couple of AoE attacks that can be a little bit dangerous, but it's typically only dangerous if you fail to heal beforehand. So she took a heal, so she wasn't really in any danger there. Now we gotta watch one more cutscene as we light the last of the elemental crystals.
And then we'll be
one more bonus dungeon cutscene here.
On our way to the final dungeon.
If anything, she's underleveled, and the gear is making up for the difference. So, in this case, she's got...
Oh, she's doing some walking.
So she's doing some circles. She's going to try for a Warmech for a little bit longer, then I think she's going to move on. It sounds like she wants to try to still keep this to a 1:30 time, which might be possible.
Dark Fighter, that's a pretty uncommon one there.
Yeah, not very dangerous here.
Yeah, I think that's the 3 and 64 encounter for the floor.
Well, for those that are just tuning in here, I think it's pretty obvious what happened to Crrool, just based on the image there. But we'll explain that Crrool ran into a rare sandworm encounter, and it happened to be an ambush, and it happened to cast Earthquake, and Earthquake happened to hit all 4 of his party members and kill them. So, well, a little unlucky for him. And he did not have a save in an appropriate spot to let him catch up to that. Yeah, he died to poison. I wish. Alright, so Kib has opted to move on, unfortunately. So no Warmech today. There's still going to be 2 more matches, or at least 1 more match, where Warmech has a chance to appear. So you guys will have to stay tuned for tomorrow's match to see if he shows up or not. But once we've defeated all the 4 fiends, we return here to where we fought Garland, combine the power of them, and open up a passageway to the past. And we basically travel back in time 2,000 years to a slightly cleaner version of the Chaos Shrine that has many, many more floors. And we have to work our way down to confront Chaos at the very end of it. So here we see Kib taking a quick safety save before progressing on. This first floor has some dangerous enemies, white dragons that she doesn't want to run into.
So Mr. Kelly, our Fluent, is asking what the point of Warmech fight is in this version of the game. The point of it is to fight Warmech.
So it's a pretty rare encounter, and it's pretty hyped for us to see it, so we like to see that if we can show it off for people. And optionally, if you get into an encounter with a Warmech, you can kill it, and it's worth quite a lot of experience.
Frogbrand, that robed figure we saw is kind of a neat character. They're showing you the path to go to the final bonus dungeon, the Labyrinth of Time. So if you're playing the game casually for the first time and don't know just to go straight and hit the crystal, then yeah, he's just a big troll who shows you the wrong way out of the dungeon.
So yeah, in this particular version of the game, in the GBA version of the game, 4 bonus dungeons were added, 1 corresponding to each of the elemental crystals. They were Earthgift Shrine, Hellfire Chasm, Lifespring Grotto, and Whisperwind Cove. And there are additional bonus content you can go through the game with new enemies, new items, new bosses. And the bosses themselves were actually copies of famous bosses from Final Fantasies 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you may recognize many of them, including Shinryu and Omega from FF5 are in the Lifespring Grotto. But they don't factor into an any % run of this category because many of the items we take advantage of with glitching are obtainable without even setting foot in the dungeon here. And then in this PSP version, 1 additional bonus dungeon was added that you can access after you've defeated all 4 of the fiends as well, called the Labyrinth of Time. And it features even more additional content, but it uses the same set of enemies. It just has 1 additional super boss at the end that actually has 8 different forms that you can fight. So it's additional content, and a prominent category of this one called All Bosses actually visits all of those dungeons, completes every encounter there, and does 1 run-through of the Labyrinth of Time, so you can fight any of the 8 forms, and we count that. So in the meantime, but I mean, that little cutscene as she entered the Chaos Shrine in the first place, that shows the opening of that area. So Kib has progressed on through the Chaos Shrine, and she's on the first of the 4 refight floors that precedes Chaos. So this is Lich's floor. So you're seeing some of the enemies that she saw in the Earth Cavern can appear here, as well as some other ones. The only one she doesn't really want to see on this floor are Earth Elementals, which are unrunnable. Everything else is pretty much runnable for her. And she's right here at the end of the floor. She's going to take a heal before confronting Lich here. So we have, to explain the fact that she's not taking much damage from characters, she has a bunch of glitched equipment on her characters from the bonus content of the game, which has high defense, high agility, high evasion in general. And in the case of the survival vests she has on her characters, has a lot of additional agility. So it greatly reduces the damage that she takes from enemy attacks.
So Kib, we got through both Lich fights without any trouble. I'm not jealous of that or anything.
I detect a little hint of resentment there, maybe.
A little bit, a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So, my first match against Kib at the tournament, Lich might have killed me 4 times in a row.
And here we see our pal Fire Lizards. You might know them more commonly as Agamas. But an Agama fact is they're not called Agamas in this version, they're just called Fire Lizards. And they are not nearly as exciting in this version. So, unfortunately, we're just going to run away and proceed on over here to Marilith, who is also a pushover on this fight. So we're going to look carefully at Kib's Thief and Black Mage HP totals. Her Black Mage at 263 is in great shape for the final fight. The Thief is a little bit low at 229 right now. Ideally, she wants it around 300, so she doesn't have to use the Giant's Tonics on him during the fight and can speed it up a little bit.
And I didn't notice earlier, did she learn haste on the ninja?
She did not, and she also did not get blocked in Lufenia, as we were looking earlier.
Yes, I did notice that. I wasn't going to point that out because I was sad.
So yeah, that was a little unfortunate for us here. So Kib's running into water elementals here, which are unrunnable, so she's got to stop and use the Black Robe, which casts Blizzara. They're actually vulnerable to it. You would think, like, water elementals, they might be vulnerable to lightning, but they're actually vulnerable to ice in this version. So Blizzara is actually the correct play here.
Must be non-ionized water.
It could be.
It's pure.
So she's fighting Kraken again, just as dapper as before, and has even more HP this time around, and considerably more dangerous attacks this time around, because he uses Thundara and has a chance to kill our characters. Mostly the mages, though, as the mages are not sporting ribbons at this point. The warrior and the thief, with the route that Kib runs, are usually sporting ribbons and take only half the damage from elemental attacks. So they're usually in pretty good shape at this point. Kib got a little bit of a level up on her thief. It looks like he's up to 253, still a little bit lower than she wants for the final fight coming up. But now she's on the shortest of the pre-fight floors with Tiamat. Here she goes straight into the fight with Tiamat. Tiamat has a huge boost in HP in this fight, though. So he went from 2,400 in the first fight to 5,500 in this fight. And the next highest pre-fight fiend is like 3,600, so it got a huge boost on this one. Yeah, so she hasted the thief to try to make it 2 rounds.
This is actually the first boss fight in the game that we do not currently have any speedrun route that includes one cycling.
Yeah, there's no way to one cycle this fight with our setup. So in general, we're trying for a 2-round fight. It may occasionally go 3 rounds depending on the damage rolls of the warrior and the thief. And Crrool's just taking a nap here. It looks like a very lengthy nap, but the ground looks really, really comfy over there.
Yeah, it does look like soft grass. Like, if there's any environment I'm going to, fall over in this game, that's like the one.
So Kib is setting up here for the final fight. So she's healing up with everyone, and she is performing a glitch with a couple specific pieces of items. So in this case, she's stacking up on intelligence gear so that she can heal quite comfortably with her white mage here. And she also took off all of the white mage's agility gear so that the white mage is going to act last in the combat order. And additionally, she may or may not have put a barbarian sword on the black mage to give him a chance to do some melee damage in the later rounds of this fight. And she put a ribbon on all 4 characters. So the ribbon's basically going to have the elemental damage from the spells that Chaos may use, as well as his Blaze special attack. It does not reduce the damage of his Tsunami or Cyclone attacks. But she's going to spend the opening round putting Giant's Tonic on the Thief, and she's not going to tonic the Black Mage, it looks like. She's comfortable with the 263 HP he's got here. But she's not comfortable with the 253 for the Thief, because the Thief will take more damage from elemental attacks here. So then from this point forward, she's pretty much just going to be attacking with with her melee characters, healing with the white mage, and then she's going to be hasting up her melee characters with haste, and then she'll be probably using the black mage to attack as well. So it should usually take 6 or 7 rounds here.
Yeah, so far it's looking pretty golden.
If you can survive usually the first round or 2 of attacks from Chaos, you're usually pretty much in the clear.
Yeah, every additional round you're safer. And a Slowra is something you gotta watch out for. We're probably going to haste that ninja out of it this early in the fight.
So yeah, that's just going to slow her down a little bit here. I mean, no pun intended there, but
we'll take it.
Yeah.
Alright, so she is undoing it. I have had a battle where I was on autopilot, didn't notice I got Slowra twice, and actually got through the Kiraja cycle, which is what you don't want to see. Chaos can get far enough in the cycle that he can heal himself for 99 hit points. And what you can run into is the white mage running out of magic to heal the party.
So that was round 4. This should be round 5 now. Kib had to take an extra round with her black mage to rehaste the thief after he got slowed. So this is the tsunami attacks. We don't want to see Chaos using these attacks because they do a lot of damage. They have long animation times. And our ribbons don't protect against like Tsunami and Cyclone. So she doesn't really want to see Cyclone as a follow-up here. In fact, she wants to see these physical attacks on her characters because they are by far the quickest attack that Chaos uses. But she's... Oh, here comes Cyclone here. But she's still in great shape, so... The Black Mage might die, but the other characters should be fine, and it should be pretty much irrelevant at this point. So she's got this pretty much on lockdown. There it is.
And there you go. Sub 130 is what her goal was.
Pretty much right on the dot there. So Chaos down there. So with that, Kib is the winner of Game 1 of the Grand Final and takes a 1-0 lead in the series. So as a reminder for those of you that just came in late or weren't paying attention earlier, Game 2 will probably be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to try to get Kib in here for an interview to talk about this run and why she wasn't able to produce a war mech here.
Yeah, so Kib is turning off her sound so we don't have echo.
Yeah, so we can just tell her just how disappointed we are and that she didn't get a war mech here.
Yep.
But that is an excellent race time. 129 is honestly an excellent race time. It's ideally you want the top runners here want sub 130 in most of their runs. Kib's best times have been in the 127 range in the tournament. Her personal PB is in a 126 range.
Yeah, she probably would have had 4 of the top 5 times had she not done the Warmech hunt, but she should have completed the Warmech hunt also.
Yeah, you gotta go big or go home.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Kib.
I'm sorry I couldn't find you a war mech.
GG.
Did you look
Thank
in the
you.
closet or anything?
No, I mean I looked under the stairs, you know. You always look for war mechs under the stairs, but no, still no war mech.
GG to Kib. Congratulations on the 1-0 lead.
Thank you. I wish it could have been under different circumstances. That's like, what, 2 runners who've been sandwormed now?
Yeah, it's a very rare thing to happen, so having it
Yeah.
happen twice is pretty incredible. Crrool sending over his congratulations, says he can't hop into the voice, but he does say congratulations, Kib.
Oh, thank you, Crrool, and I'm so sorry about the stupid sandworm.
Yeah. It was very unfortunate, but I mean, even at that point, you still had opened a bit of a lead on him. Well,
Yeah,
actually, you opened like a pretty significant lead early and going on, and then Crrool erased that pretty much in the immediate aftermath of the Lich area.
I noticed I was 30 seconds behind him once I got to the canoe, and I was like, oh, barbarian sword strats.
Yeah, no, you were on the 3rd floor, your second trip into the Earth Cavern, when he was getting the Earth Rod, and he passed you by the end of Crescent Lake.
Wow.
He had a amazing little bit there.
That's awesome. Yeah, mine was pretty pants, so in comparison. Yeah, that was okay. Not too bad.
Bonsai strats were extra strong today.
190 HP at Lich.
Yeah, I point out that you had, when you got to Matoya, you had more hit points than I have had on the Black Mage at the end of the game before.
Yes, same.
Uh,
I was looking at him like, are you sure you're not a warrior?
yeah, also, he had the most hit points. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was just weird. Banto's just going a bit nuts now. He just wants me to stop. So
we would be remiss if we didn't talk about me getting smacked in the face by the ghosts in Sunken
You
Shrine.
guys were all trying to sort out Crrool's stream, and I was just like, just run away from all the things and what could possibly go wrong. I don't think I've ever been hit by a ghost in PSP before, so I didn't even know they hit that hard.
Several times.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah. It was an
I've
impressive
actually
string
run
of
them
crits.
before, but I've never seen them like punch that hard. That was incredible.
And suddenly Paul is dead.
Yeah, I was taking a nice nap there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And then the only other thing I can think of is the amazing NPC blocks you got today.
Yes.
Oh wow, yeah. I probably caused the one in Gaia. Like, I should have stepped back and let him move, because he was trying to move into me, and I kind of didn't gather and just stood there like, no, go the other way.
You also could have just gone into the item shop and back out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that's a very rare NPC block. I've only seen that happen like once or twice.
Yeah, I've had that once or twice before, but yeah. Thanks, mate.
So I mean, other than the trying to run from the ghosts, I didn't see too many mistakes on your side.
I don't
Yeah,
think.
you
Yeah,
seem
no,
to-
that was a slightly dodgy battle menuing occasionally, but mostly okay.
Yeah.
Which is all you can hope for in a tournament run.
Yeah.
Yeah, any sub 130 run is great.
Especially if you spend a minute looking for Warmack.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good execution. Overall, pretty good RNG.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate what happened to Crrool. That being said, I think the way your run was going and the way it continued to go, you would have had a hard time to beat, even if Crrool hadn't wiped there.
Yeah, we'll have to see tomorrow. Hopefully he will make it to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And,
Crrool's first actual loss in this section of the tournament.
Mhm.
He took one other forfeit in the group stages, but he hasn't lost a match, I think, since then.
Yeah, so as a fan of seeing tournaments go on as long as possible, Kib, as much as I like you, I hope you lose tomorrow.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
I want to see it come to, game 3 for all the marbles.
If I have Porsyth again as my party, then I probably will lose, because, Scythe was particularly rubbish. The whole first half of the game, I was like, "You're the thief, you're meant to run from encounters," and he's just stood there like, "Oh, no, I don't think I'm going to help you out. I should be in this finals, not you." It was, very, very petty of him, I felt.
Well, Kib, you absolutely earned your way into the finals. You had a great run. Crrool was having great execution. He just had bad luck. But I think we're probably going to hand the channel back over to the good folks at Speed Gaming.
The very busy folks at Speed Gaming who've slotted us in for another 3 races. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. And I want to thank you so much for running the game today. I want to thank Crrool for running. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank Porsyth for doing most of the talking, so I didn't have to. And
also for doing half my run for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
And of course, Speed Gaming for everything they do for us. Let us show off all the hard work we do.
Yeah, I just want to give a special shout out to Fiesel and Adirondack Rick for their assistance with helping us throughout the tournament. We're not quite done here. We got 1 or 2 more games left. So for everyone that is still here, please stay tuned. Tomorrow morning's match should be at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And Monday will be Game 3. At least that's what it's looking at right now. We don't have a time. We're going to try to get that sorted out and let you guys know.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day. And everyone, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to Speed Gaming and have yourselves a wonderful day.
Good night.
Bye, guys.